we are incredibly excited to welcome a powerhouse guest.
It'll all be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. That would be my dating advice.
If you had to pick one romantic gesture to impress somebody, what would it be?
A proposal would be great.
There's the core four. There's Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte.
Amazing.
I had like a complete and utter meltdown, like crying, freaking out, like losing my mind.
Welcome back to another episode of First Rounds on Me. Today, we are incredibly excited to welcome a powerhouse guest, someone whose life and career are just as captivating as the legacy that she comes from. Gracie Cashman. Grace is a dynamic host of The Story of My Number, where she sits down with Yankee legends to explore the pivotal moments that have defined their careers and personal life. But Gracie isn't just following in the famous footsteps. She's forging her own exciting path in the worlds of entertainment and sports. In today's episode, we'll explore her incredible career, dive into her thoughts on all things dating, relationships, love, and of course, spice it up a little with some exciting games and unexpected questions. Gracie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What an intro.
Oh,
Hi,
I love
Gracie.
them.
Love it. Hi.
So the way that we found Gracie is because I'm a huge Yankee fan. One day I was watching the game, as I do, and Hannah just like, when the game's on, she just is like, 3 hours of my life, he's not around. So after the game, I was on the phone, and then the show popped on, and I was like, oh, this show's cool. And I think Andy Pettitte was on, and you were going through the numbers, and I was like, not only so into the show, but I was like into Andy Pettitte. So I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, you know what? As I do, I'm going to reach out to this person and see if she'd be a guest on the show. She'd be perfect. And here we are.
Here we are.
Here I am.
I love how it happens. You're up, knowing
I'm up right away. Okay. Do you think growing up in the sports-dominated household has influenced your dating life? Do you prefer dating people who are also into sports, or it doesn't really matter to you?
I guess it doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I have yet to date a diehard Yankee fan, so that almost makes things a lot easier. My boyfriend is a big baseball fan, but he is a Cubs fan. So, and he, you know, like in this World Series, he's rooting for the Yankees.
I would hope so.
So he can, I would say I maybe made the Yankees his second favorite team. But yeah, it didn't really ever matter to me because I was always kind of in this entertainment sector in school. So I didn't have a lot of exposure to people that were like super diehard fans that were like my age, I guess.
Okay.
Wow, that's interesting. So I guess like growing up, if a guy, did you tell guys that, you know, your involvement with the Yankees, or did you kind of just let them figure out for their own? Because I feel like if you were in my grammar school and I was like, oh, Gracie's dad runs the Yankees, I'd be like, I want to be best friends or like date Gracie.
Well, I went to all girls school until my sophomore year of high school. So in that setting, and then I even transferred to another private school. So I think that was one of those things where everyone, it's such a small environment, everyone just kind of knows everything about you. Mm-hmm. So I don't actually remember ever like having to tell anyone. And then even like in college as a theater major, that's also a very small community. So I think it's something that people kind of like find out, and then word spreads, and it comes up in conversation. Like, he's my dad. Like, think about how much you talk about your parents. Like, they just come up kind of in convo. So I feel like sometimes like it just happens, but it was never something that I was like, I'm gonna have to like make an announcement about this,
or I'm gonna have to keep it quiet, just like to be able to,
exactly. Because I feel like that would also be hard, because it is a really big part of my life, you know. So you want to be honest about that. It would be weird to be like, I've been hiding this big thing. Like, I've been hiding that I go to games a lot and that I like it. Like, that'd be so, you know.
100%.
So now, with that being said, do you feel like your personal life is sometimes, whether it's dating or just, you know, with friends, is more underneath a microscope because of your family status? Or do you feel like you guys do a good job of staying under the radar?
I think we do a good job. I think my dad's a really private person. And he's like notoriously private with the press. So I get a lot of comments on TikTok that are like, I didn't even know Brian Cashman had kids. Like, I didn't even know these children existed. Because he was really protective of us when we were little. And I think, you know, the press has changed so much. I was born in 98. Like, there weren't cameras the way that there are now. So I think by the time we were old enough that, I don't know. Like, so I think probably we just... I also, like, my dad's not Brad Pitt. Like, it's not like anyone was like banging down the door, like trying to cut, like TMZ did not knock on the door ever and like try to get pictures, like, just on a regular day. So it was kind of under the radar, I guess.
Well, you say your dad's not like Brad Pitt, but to a group of people in New York, he is like Brad Pitt, if not
One
way
of
better.
my friends says that a lot, that she's like, it's funny that like to one very niche group of people, he is a very big deal. And then there's almost no in between. Like he's either a very big deal to someone or they have like legitimately never heard of him. And that's it. Like there isn't really a group of people
You're
that...
seeing both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like literally.
She was like,
Exactly.
she knows who what the Yankees are, obviously. But I was explaining to her the rules as we started dating. And now when I was like, oh my God, we're going to have, Brian Cashman's daughter on the podcast. She's like,
Who's that?
who?
And then I started doing research on you. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. But then like doing research on you, I had absolutely no
No,
idea.
of course not. I mean, I think like obviously if you're a Yankees fan and you have been for a long time, he's always been there for, most
How
of...
long has he been the general manager?
Since 1998.
Yeah,
wow.
and he's
Since
been
the
there
year that you were born?
before that.
Yes. So I've always been
Mate.
good luck because they won the World Series that year and I was an October baby. So
And also, like,
There's
to give you more
really something
context,
here.
like for somebody to last in that position for almost 20 years, it's unheard of. It's, like in sports in general. But with
he is the
Yankees,
longest tenured GM in sports.
Yeah, and
In all of sports.
every year,
Someone said that to me, actually. Maybe I should fact check that. Someone else said that to me, and I was like, that's cool. That's
I
a
think
fun
he is.
fact.
I think he is.
We're going to call that fact. I'm like, how? That must give you such a sense of pride
Yeah.
over your family and your father in particular.
Yeah, I think he's good at what he does.
Oh, he's
I
great.
mean, 25 years, mate. You got to be, don't you?
So obviously, we know who your dad is, but like, you're also pretty amazing. How do you like prove to people that you belong in the room? And it's like, hey, I'm not here just because my dad is who he is.
I think a lot of it is accepting that a lot of rooms you are in because of who your dad is. Like that's something that I'm comfortable admitting. And, like the Yes Network, like I don't think, like I am educated. I went to Northwestern. I studied this in school. I'm qualified to have this job. But is there a reason that my name came up in conversation? Absolutely. So I think that it's kind of just getting comfortable with saying, that's fine. Like, I'm going to be who I am, and part of who I am is who my parents are. And rejecting that feels wrong. So I think you just kind of got to own it and take it on the chin when people have an attitude about it. But
I think that's what a lot of people. You even kind of mentioned it before. It's like you hired people to be able to fight that story, not fight it, but just kind of like help defend you in that reality. But I think when people, whether it's sports, whether it's entertainment, when any kind of industry where nepotism comes into play, where if you deny it, then you're kind of compounding the issue. If you, like you said, if you just accept it and accept like, yeah, okay, I probably am here because of this, but I also have all of this skill and all of this merit to be able to back it up and like watch what I can do.
yeah,
It's a really beautiful thing. I like it.
Yeah, and I feel like the opportunity might arise, but are you going to deliver, right? Because it could easily be like, you know what? Let's give Gracie a chance and see what happens. And then you could not deliver. And it could put more pressure on you. And it's like, okay, not only am I getting this opportunity, but because I'm being seen at first, I have to deliver times 10, and I got to be prepared when the opportunity
That's
comes.
a good point. You have to kind of even prove yourself that little bit more, don't you? In
yeah,
some
I
ways.
think that it's one of those things where if someone can open a door for you, you better be the hardest working person once you're in it.
Damn straight.
And that goes for anything, like whether it be like my dad didn't have any conversations with the Yes Network. So it's not like he was like, hey, my daughter wants a show or like anything like that. They had a show that was brought to them by separate producers, like an outside production company that wanted to partner with Yes to do the show. And then they originally wanted a former player to host the show so that the tone of the show was kind of casual and someone that the contestants, the interviewee already knew and understood.
Could relate.
Yeah, like kind of, so it wasn't like we're not gonna like Barbara Walters you here. Like no one's gonna, this isn't a gotcha show. We're not trying to expose you or talk about anything you don't want to. And that wasn't working out just scheduling wise. Trying to figure out a former player with an active player is just too complicated. And so my name came up because I had done another show that someone at the network had worked on as well. So it kind of came up organically, but obviously there's a reason that they were like, oh, that's interesting. And there's a reason that the players will trust her and that they will know her and that they'll recognize it. So I think it's an interesting story and it's fun to get to do. And it's fun to get to be part of, being born, there's no bigger blessing than being born into an organization like the Yankees. And then so to get to do something myself with them is really, really, really cool as well.
Yeah, it's cool. And I would say even from a viewer's point of view, you know, there are shows where athletes interview athletes, and Michael Kay has a show where he interviews athletes, and they're good, but they're not too different for me where I'm like, I actually want to pay attention to that. When your show popped up, I was like, oh, it's a lot, it feels a lot newer in like the podcast interviewer sense with someone who's not a ex-Yankees player. And it caught my attention for that reason. It was just different and I liked it, you know?
I love that so much.
What advice would you give other people that are in this similar situation of quote unquote nepotism? Say like, you know, LeBron James's kid is on the Lakers now and everyone's saying, oh, he's only on the Lakers because he's LeBron James's son. What advice would you give people in these situations?
That you have to drown out. Like, no, you're not. You didn't make it to the Lakers. Like, that is a level of success that you don't get. I think you have to acknowledge that there's a level up. Like, my family was in a financial position to support me while I pursued my dream. They were in a financial position to like that I could study what I wanted to in school. And that I didn't have this anxiety of like, well, I need to be lucrative immediately. So I think that there's real, like, to me, that's where the nepotism lies, that you have access to training, to like voice lessons, to all of that kind of stuff. And I had a vocal injury and the Yankees got me in with a really amazing vocal doctor, who I still see to this day. I love him. But so I think that there's things like that that are more, that I think help people more than just having the same last name as somebody, that I think are important to acknowledge. But I also think it's important to acknowledge, like, you didn't make it to the Lakers based on your last name. You just didn't. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. And you wouldn't not make it to the Lakers because your last name was something else. So it goes both ways, you know? So yeah, I think 100%. It's kind of an interesting thing that people pick at a lot. And it's not nearly as interesting as people like to make it, I think.
Yeah,
it's a lot more controversial than people think it actually
And also,
is.
I mean, if you graduate Northwestern, is that the number one school for sports media or just media in general, Northwestern?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
A lot of the top sports commentators and writers come from Northwesterns.
I wouldn't know, so I'm going to trust you on that.
Yeah.
Good school.
I loved it there.
I want to pivot a little bit because, you know, we talk about your parents and like we talked a lot about your father, but like your mother's and father's relationship. Like your father was away quite a bit, right, with the sport. How, and we talk about this quite often within the podcast of like either long distance relationships or dealing with distance in relationships. And so how do you think that they handled being away from each other so frequently, and what do you think like the pros and the cons of them doing that was?
I don't know. Well, they are divorced.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
So
was it because of baseball?
No, I don't think so. They have a great relationship now. They are, and they always did. I mean, I think something people say sometimes to me like, oh, I wanted my parents to get divorced because they were fighting all the time, and we did not have that. I never saw my parents fight pre-divorce, post-divorce. Wow. During divorce. They're epic co-parents and pillars of strength in that arena. So I think that that's kind of an interesting thing. I think that it was tough for my dad to navigate being away from us so much. That was interesting in navigating the divorce also because we couldn't have a traditional custody arrangement because if he had to travel with the team, we would never see him. If we had him, like if he had us every other weekend, we would never get to see him. So it just was to the benefit of each parent, I think was the language in their divorce. It was like whatever works. And their lawyers were like, we'll come back to this if this ever becomes a problem. And it just never did. We hung out with my dad when he was around and when he could, and he would come to my mom's house and they would hang out and we would still do like family dinners together. And so it worked out completely fine.
Shows that just like there's such a deep level of respect there between them, and to be able to co-parent in that way, but then also at the same time, like again, something that we talk about, like it's just because a relationship doesn't work out in one way doesn't mean that it's not meant to forge into something else. And like they clearly have a really beautiful friendship now and they're co-parents and like they're always going to be tethered together in some way, shape or form. Sometimes marriages just don't work out and it's not the end of the world.
And they're both remarried. They're both like, but they both have a deep respect for the core four that started out. Well, me, my mom, my dad, and my brother.
Oh, cool.
The core four. I like that a lot.
That's the core four, yeah.
Do you know what core four means?
Is it a sports metaphor?
Yeah, well, yeah. You're using it in the sense of the Yankees, right? The
kind
core
of like
four?
a wink, wink, I guess, yeah.
There's the core four. There's
See, I have
Derek
no
Jeter,
idea.
Jorge Posada, Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettit.
Amazing.
All you got out of that was Derek Jeter.
That's literally the only one that I heard of it.
Oh, Derek Jeter must be good.
We're a really good example of opposites attract. Truly and utterly. Like my interest is so vastly different than his, but he teaches me and I teach him, and it makes a really well balanced relationship.
That's beautiful.
You seem to have a really strong sense of self and determination.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What qualities do you look for in a partner that complements that drive and ambition?
I don't know. So here's the thing: is I met my boyfriend in high school.
Okay, because I was going to ask about the Meetcute because it's Joe's absolute favorite part of the podcast.
What is the Meetcute in high school?
Okay, the Meetcute in high school is that we were in Legally Blonde together. I was playing Elle Woods and he was playing Warner. And we actually did not date like immediately. We were both kind of like involved with other people. And then later that summer, and he was like cool in high school and I was not. I was a theater kid. I was like really dorky and weird in high school. And he was like a cool guy. And he sent me a Snapchat over the summer. And this was in the land of like mass Snapchats. So I was like, this is definitely some kind of like, he's at a concert or something. Like, why would he be Snapchatting me? And I opened it and they had just announced the musical for the next year. And he was like, and it was Into the Woods. And so he was like, what do you think about Into the Woods? And then that was it.
So that was the summer going into college?
That was the summer of me going into my junior year, his senior year of high school.
Wow. So
he was a year older and he was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Was he like a football turned, like, I'll star in the or like a sportsman turned?
When I tell you that I
rom-com?
legitimately went to High School Musical, I did. Like all of the I think from what I've heard, it's a little different now. But like the captain of the football team played Emmett in Legally Blonde. My boyfriend was a captain of the baseball team. He played Warner. Like we literally just had like, I think the school was so small. It was just so normal for everyone to be doing everything all the time.
A lot of cross-pollination.
Yeah, we like had to have that. But then when I tell people that, they're like, what? But at the time it was very weird that I only did theater and that I didn't play a sport. I was one of like, I think like 5 kids that did we had to do an after school activity. I think I was one of 5 kids that always did the show.
Wow.
So what do you think most attracted you to him, personality wise or sense of, besides being, popular?
Yeah.
And gorgeous.
I mean, in high school it goes a long way.
He's very different than me and he sees the world in like a very different way. And I have never not found that interesting. Like to this day, he'll say things that I'm like, huh. Like I never would have thought of it that way. I never would have looked at this situation that way. I'm like tightly wound and anxiety,
feel you on that.
Like Inside Out 2 really messed me up.
I just watched it on the airplane. I cried.
Yeah, how could you not? We came out of Inside Out 2 and he was like, I don't feel like they should have had her handle her anxiety in a weekend. Like, I don't think so he had all these thoughts, but he's like very he's just kind of calm, cool, collected, and he sees things in a very pragmatic way. So he's very different. And he wants I always dreamed of this wild life, jet setting, being a billionaire. I'm Taylor Swift. That's what I envisioned for my future. And all he ever wanted was a white picket fence and a normal life and a normal job. And he never wanted anything like that. And I think maybe just being in the entertainment world, you don't encounter people that see the beauty in those little things. And I think that's so healthy to be with someone that is this is what we are doing is my dream. And I'm like, okay.
That's
so sweet.
The best answer I could have ever expected. I was like, oh, this is, you guys met in high school. It's not going to be. But there's crossover between us because I feel like in a sense of, dealing with the anxiety and being calm, cool, and collective, it seems like our relationship is that way. But it's the opposite when it comes to wanting to jet set the world and having a white picket fence. That's a dream of Hannah's because she came from the entertainment world.
Very simplistic, very bare bones almost in a way, but in a really substantial way, in a really fulfilling way. But it was never I never had ideas of grandeur. Yeah. Whereas I think Joe has had a little bit more of an ideas of grandeur and we've balanced each other out in that regard.
I want to build the app up and sell it for $1 billion. And
Yeah.
then she's like, I want to buy the Knicks. She's like, that's your dream to buy the Knicks. I'm like, I want to buy the Knicks.
Like, you're not
Hell
buying the
yeah.
Knicks. You're not buying the bloody Knicks. I was like, listen, I'm not going to be angry if we're billionaires, but also at the same time, I'd still like that white picket fence. I'd still like to focus on a family. I'd still like to focus on like those small but powerful few things. I think that would make life really fulfilling.
Totally.
But I think
You can have it both.
yeah, no, I think
Absolutely.
having the balance is the really key part into a healthy relationship. It's like, especially when someone gets to see the world differently. Like Hannah showed me such a different side of the world from like an empathetic standpoint. Whereas again, I was more pragmatic, and I was like, okay, let's take a step back and we had a podcast the other day where she was like, do we think men are more logical than women? And I was like, let's be clear. I don't think that men are smarter than women, but on a first date, we're so pragmatic and logical, at least me, where I'm like, this isn't going to work because you live 45 minutes away from me. Whereas maybe you are like, oh, I'm so emotionally excited about this. It's going to work.
Interesting.
And it's just the way you look at things differently, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. A lot. Okay, so you split your time between Chicago and New York, right?
Yes.
Are you ever away from each other for like long stretches of time?
All the time. We're moving to New York full time.
You are?
Because I was like, I can't continue to do this back and forth. Because it just got to, he's a consultant.
Okay.
So he can work from not Chicago. And obviously the Yankees are in New York, and as from what I've heard, they don't have any intentions of moving. So I am always in New York, and I can't not be. So, and even that's hard, because when I'm here in New York, I'm really in Connecticut staying with my mom. So that's also like, I'm still an hour away from where I need to be. And it's just, and I hate flying. I'm a terrible, terrible flyer. So it's very like emotionally taxing for me to be doing this back and forth. And he's alone all the time in Chicago. So it's like, we have to just make the move.
What would be your best tip for people out there who are kind of dealing with distance, whether it's Chicago to New York or if it's New York to bloody Paris? Like,
You just got to find what works for you. We did long distance in college, and I don't think then we had found our stride. Like I'm a big texter, a big FaceTimer, and he's not like that. Like he didn't really get any fulfillment out of that. So for him, that was very draining, like to just kind of be constantly on the phone. And that was really hurtful for me to feel like he didn't want to talk to me, because for me, I just wanted to talk to him. So I think that you just have to find the balance that works for you and really communicate about what fulfills each of you in the relationship, and then make sure that you're each getting that. Because when we were both just digging in our heels, I was like, what? And I'm sure he was also, just like, what is going on? So I think that you have to figure out what works.
I think communication too. It's like communicating until you cannot communicate anymore, like over communication in any regard, especially long distance. Like we did 3 months apart. I was in Australia and he was here, and it was so, and
That's a big time change too.
Massive time change. And it was so difficult, but all we did was communicate, and all we did was like try to work at our relationship and find ways to like be intimate with each other, not like in the sense of physical intimacy, but just like mentally intimate with each other, to like build and have like cute little date nights where we watch movies together, but we'd be like, and it was just like little things like that where you're still keeping that connection alive, but it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, it was difficult.
It was.
To your point, Hannah was a big FaceTime or texter, and to me, it's like, I'm going to do it because it makes you feel good. Do I enjoy texting all day? No.
Exactly.
But we also had like a small window where I was like, okay, let me just really pay attention and give her my all in this 1 hour window. But other than that, it was just like, you're busy with your life and you just want to make sure the other person feels good.
Yeah. It was hard for me also because he went to college a year before me. And so in my head, I'm thinking like Animal House. Like when I hadn't been to college, I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And then you go to college and you're like, this isn't at all, like he's going to class. Like there's not like strippers running around campus, like in the way that it looks in the movies. Like it looks like it's nuts. And no one is supportive when you stay with your high school boyfriend through college.
No, I'm sure.
No one's like, I'm so happy for you. Everyone's like, this is a terrible idea and it's going to crash and burn. And then you see these movies. So there's just all this negativity coming your way. And I think that is also hard. Like you just have to be strong in the decision that you've made and like not let other people influence you. Because for me, and I think for him also, the conversations that we had were, if this is going to crash and burn, I'd rather it crash and burn than always look back and be like, I don't think that was like ready to end. Like, why are we breaking up when we're just like still deeply in love and like very happy with each other? So I'd rather it crash and burn and then be like, we did everything we could.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
and it crashed and burned. So, and that was fine with me, like that risk. And we did break up for like 2 years.
I was just going to ask if you broke up.
We did.
In college?
My sophomore year of college, we broke up. So at the very end. So his junior year, the end of his junior year. So his senior year, he was single. And it was COVID, so.
Oh, good. Couldn't do anything.
Exactly.
Wow, you're so young. COVID was your senior year. Oh my God. But I think that could also be good, right? Because some people go through a relationship from when they're 14 to the end of their life, and they always have that, not a sense of freedom, but I never had different, you know? Whereas he could have done nothing, right? Or he could have kissed somebody, but at least he knew, okay, like I knew what it was like for a year without Grace. I know what I really want. It's you, you know? And I feel like when we had broken up, because there was just like a lot of like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to be with one person for the rest of my life. But when you have that small gap of not having the person you love, you realize, oh, I'm glad I went through this because I know for a fact for the rest of my life, I want to be with this one person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he proposed to me like 2 months later. It was real cute.
Yeah.
It was real cute.
Yeah, it was definitely important for us, the space.
Are you guys engaged yet?
No.
Okay.
I can't wait for the day.
Me too.
One more question before we end this section. Who said I love you first?
Both times he did.
Oh, so like before and then when you broke up and you went,
Yeah.
oh, cute.
But to be fair, the second time I was kind of like, this is really weird that you're like not saying it. And he was like, okay. And then I put and then we went like a really long time where no one said it. Cause then I was like, well, I'm not saying it first after I said that. So go ahead.
I'm waiting.
Think about it and get back to me. And then we went like months where no one said it. And then then he wrote me like a really nice card for my birthday one year that like had I love you in it. And then after that, we just started saying it again. But it was like probably like a year that we both just were like, I'm not saying it first.
The pride that came into play. That's so funny.
Probably because I was like, that's so strange that we're like back together and you're not saying it.
Like we loved each other like a year ago.
Yeah, I was
what
like,
are you talking about?
Did you stop love it? Like what's happening here? Do we need to like we didn't start at square one. Like I don't know.
But that is also a good thing. It's like when you get back together, do you like where does it start again? Do you start at square one? Do you start where you left off?
I think
like
you start at square one, but you skip steps like 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Oh.
I kind of agree. I think we like intended to start at square one, but you just can't because you like know them so deeply already. Like you just can't.
You can't.
You're not like learning.
And you're vetted too. Like,
It's true.
Like
you
I've
know?
already met your parents.
Yeah.
Like so there's no like we can't go you can't like backtrack that, you know, knowledge of
Yeah,
them.
I feel like
Yeah, that's
step
true.
one when you get back together is, okay, how much have you grown or changed? We're going to start at step one and
Like
take this really
relearning,
slow.
yeah.
But then once you see that, it's like, okay, let's speed back up because you've grown and changed. Now we're back to 10.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
All right. We're going to play a little dating game. This is inspired by the theme of your show, The Story of My Number. I thought we'd switch things up a little bit. Instead of asking you typical dating and relationship questions, we're going to play a little game I like to call Love by the Numbers. So I've got numbers 1 through 21, and you'll pick 10 throughout the segment. So you just pick a number between 1 and 21, and then each number reveals a fun or thought-provoking question. So lay it on me.
Alrighty.
This is a new game to me. I'm
Between 1
excited.
and 21? I'll take 19.
You'll take 19. Okay. If you had to pick one romantic gesture to impress somebody, what would it be?
I'm doing it or it's being done to me?
Dealer's choice.
A proposal would be great.
Hint, hint.
That's a romantic
nudge, nudge.
gesture. I like flowers. I'm kind of a sucker for flowers, especially if you were like really thoughtful about like the kind of flowers and everything. I really like that.
I love it.
Would you be turned off if he did a Yankees game proposal?
Yes.
Or is that too cheesy?
Absolutely.
Immediately.
Mostly because I've said several times, because people say it all the time, that they're like, that would be so cool. And so I've had so many conversations where I'm like, it would not be so cool.
Just to be clear with you, do not do that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't care how many people say that it would be so cool. No, it wouldn't. Don't do it. And so it would mostly be like, why did you not listen? Like,
Next number.
7.
It's one of my lucky numbers. Tell us about a time where you really embarrassed yourself on a date. But considering you met your partner in high school, this may not be a possibility.
No, but I was single. So I know I had several like debriefs with my roommates.
Debriefs.
That's a good way of putting it.
I didn't really embarrass myself necessarily here, but it's just kind of a embarrassing story. I was going on a date and I was so nervous because I just like I felt very like I didn't have any experience like going on dates or doing anything. So I called my best friend and I took 2 shots of Fireball and just to like chill out. And she was like, okay, brush your teeth. And I was like, why? And she was like, because you're going to reek of Fireball. Like, what is wrong with you? But then I was like, I'm drunk, clearly, because I didn't even realize what she was talking about. She was on FaceTime. Like, she was in Boston. I was in Chicago. So it was like, I didn't even know what she was talking about. So I guess maybe I might have made a fool of myself on that date. We'll never know.
I love 2 shots of I love that you go straight to Fireball, too. Woof.
Yeah. That was kind of
crazy.
A nuts move
I love
at,
it.
Like 5 in the afternoon.
You know what?
awesome.
Fuck it. Fuck it up. Next number.
9.
9. What's the most creative date you've ever been on?
Again, I feel like I'm gonna leave and my boyfriend's gonna be like, here are all these creative dates I took you on. And I'm gonna be like, you're so right. I don't know. I'm not sure I've ever been on a
Creative date.
But I'm an anxious person, so I think a creative date would stress me out. I like to know what we're doing.
Fair.
I like to have the plan.
What is that saying? It's like, I'll go with the flow, but I need to know what time the flow starts.
Yeah, when's the flow? Who will be there?
What are we doing throughout the flow?
Yes.
I'm
When
the
does the
exact
flow
same.
end?
Next number.
16.
What's one thing you always judge on a first date, even if it's petty?
If you're kind to the wait staff.
It's such a classic answer, but honestly, I feel like it's classic for a reason. Like, that is such a so indicative of who you are as a human being. If you treat a waiter like shit, or just anybody else around you like shit, how are you gonna treat me in the future?
I also used to be a bartender and waiter at like a local restaurant in our town, and the amount of people that would come in and were just so rude that I was like, what is wrong with you? Also, I was like 17. I was like, you're bullying a 17-year-old and you're like in your 50s. Like, that's like
So sad.
beyond strange behavior. So
I think it's a sense of insecurity too.
Yeah, it's an ego trip.
Like even today, we were on the phone with a doctor's office, and it was just the receptionist, I guess, and I was just being like, "Oh, thank you so much for all your help," and she was just like, "What? Like, oh, thank you." Like,
She's kind of taken aback a little bit.
No one's like ever really
that's so
done this
sad.
before.
I know.
But it just
thank
like
people.
Yeah, like she's doing a great job. She's helping me, and I was like, "Thank you so much for all the help you're doing setting up my doctor's appointment."
It's a really
This is awesome.
sad place that we've got into society if people are shocked that we're thanking them
Yeah.
for just helping us.
Yeah.
Next number.
I'm forgetting the numbers that I picked already.
Me too.
21.
If you could give yourself your past self one piece of dating advice, what would it be?
Calm down. Like, it all ends okay. It doesn't. You don't need to take 2 shots of Fireball before a date. Like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, just relax.
I think that's the best advice just for everybody, because we, obviously we run a dating app. We get a lot of, first date questions, and it's just literally like, treat the first date like you're just getting to meet a new friend, have fun, no expectations, because the more pressure you put on yourself, the more it's just not going to go well. And I think just calming down is perfectly put. Just calm down and listen to Grace. It'll all work out. Eventually you'll meet your person.
Gracie
Don't
knows
stress.
best.
No, my dad's favorite quote is, "It'll all be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end." So I think that would be my dating advice to my previous self. And I'm sure my dad gave it to me at the time and I didn't listen, but
We don't have to
maybe
listen
from
to
future me, I would. I don't know.
that. I love that. All right, we'll do 3 more.
17.
Describe the best first date outfit you've ever worn or would want to wear.
I think this is.
I mean, that's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
What does it say on your leg?
Mom, I am a rich man.
Share.
Iconic. I don't know if I've ever worn like a first date outfit that I was like, this slaps.
What advice would you give to the girlies out there for like? I mean, I know it's all kind of dependent on personal style, but then like, what do you think would be the best first date outfit?
I always go for something that's kind of like this could go either way. Like I was really into like the black bodysuit sort of thing because it's like if depending on what he wears, like you're gonna look normal together. It like you won't look overdressed or underdressed no matter what.
Smart.
So I kind of would go for the middle of the road, almost like, you know, the equivalent of a little black dress where it's like this will just blend no matter what.
I like that. That's really good advice. 2 more.
12.
What's your go-to strategy for impressing someone on a first date?
I don't have one. I wish I did. I simply
You just go on being by yourself and that impresses them.
take 2 fireball shots, I guess, was my strategy.
That's going to be
but
the answer to everything. from now
yeah,
on.
that was so, and I don't think it worked. So
What was your first date once you guys got back together? Or was there like a courting process?
there was, and it was very stressful for me because I wasn't sure like what we were doing because we kind of didn't really stop talking. Like there were increments that we weren't talking, but we would still be like Snapchatting, and then we'd go a couple months without talking, and then we would be talking again. And then I moved to Chicago and he lived there. So then it was kind of a weird, like, well, now we're here. We're just going to keep like Snapchatting. So it was a very awkward courting process, to be fair, because then we started like seeing each other in person, but it was kind of like, are we on the same page about getting back together, or are we just kind of like hanging out?
Did you move back to Chicago with hopes or just for yourself?
Well, I went to college there. So I just stayed there after school. I think I'd be lying if I said it didn't occur to me at all that he was there. But I think mostly it had to do with the fact that we had lost a year for COVID. So many of my friends decided to stay in Chicago an extra year. And I did only intend on being there 1 year post-grad.
Nice.
So I definitely had hopes after that year. That was for him.
Kristen Cavallari just did something. I don't know what it's called, but it's like she broke up with that guy and she went on vacation with her gay best friend and his husband. And then she posted a picture with 4 shot glasses just to cause like a, I don't know,
A ruckus.
Cause a little drama.
get him going. But yeah, I guess like if you want to get a reaction from somebody or like stay close to them, you got to like put the feelers out there, you know?
In some way, shape, or form.
I've thought of a better embarrassing moment though.
Lay it on me.
I have an actual one. We were in this phase of kind of like hanging out, but not officially back together. And he took me to a party at his friend's house, and I had like a complete and utter meltdown at this party, like crying, freaking out, like losing my mind because he was talking to this other girl who I didn't know. And when he introduced me, my big happened to be there, like my sorority big. And he introduced me as Julia's little. And I was like, what? And then I went absolutely nuclear. So that was kind of embarrassing.
Was there something
blame you
there
then.
between them, or they were just talking?
No, and after he explained it, he was like, she's Julia's friend, like, because Julia's from Chicago. Okay. She's like, she knows Julia from home. So I was mostly saying that, but I immediately went into this, like, we dated and I'm here with him and I don't know why he's like not acknowledging that. So
Yeah, that would have thrown me over the deep end too. Truth be told, like this is Julia's little, not this is Gracie.
I
Like,
had one too many drinks and had an absolute meltdown. So that
Alcohol
was
feel.
definitely embarrassing.
But it
and
shows
I'm
that you
sorry,
guys have
Seth.
like a very, very strong foundation because, you know, no matter 2 human beings, no matter what situation you're in, when someone's so vulnerable off of something that may seem crazy at the moment, in the moment, he's just thinking, oh, I mean, like, let me explain this to you. And, you know, it's okay that you react that way, but it's a misunderstanding here. And he just totally let that go. And
The next morning I was like, we might be done after like after that behavior, that spectacle for me last night, we could be completely over. And I woke up to a text from him that said, I, for one, am shocked that the 2 p.m. tequila shots went over badly. And I was like, okay. It's like, so see, that's like, I was like spiraling about this. And he was so like,
yeah, and it just shows that there's something
good.
so real there
Yeah.
where it's not surface level. Because if it was a surface level relationship, something like that, like you said, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, here's my excuse or reasoning to be totally out because
Yeah.
of what this person did. But
he
when something's
loves
so
you.
strong, it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna let something so silly get in between my feelings of this woman, you know?
yeah. So
Very cool.
that
I
was,
like him a
that
lot.
was definitely the more
I
embarrassing.
like this guy a lot.
Yeah.
he sounds like a good egg.
He's
Okay.
wonderful.
Another game, right?
Yep.
So considering you're steeped in the sports world and in the spirit of that, we're going to ask you a few questions and play a few games in the theme of baseball.
Great.
Okay. The MVP, as we know, is the most valuable player. In this sense, it's the most valuable partner. What qualities or traits do you think make someone an MVP and stand above the rest?
Loyalty. I think that's the big one for me, is I want someone like in my corner, who's going to have my back. And the rest of it, I think, kind of usually falls into place if you are like really committed to saying like, this is someone I'm going to put above everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like what else is there to ask for then?
I think that the thing that makes me happiest in my relationship with Hannah is that she always says that I'm loyal to a fault, which is, I guess, self-deprecating in the moment. But to me, it's really nice because I know she would never, ever do anything to like do me wrong, whether that's like cheat or do something against me. It's just like she's so loyal that my mind never thinks about anything like that she's doing wrong.
Yeah.
I'm perfect. Thank you.
Grand slam of love. What's your definition of a grand slam in a relationship? In other words, what's the perfect combination of qualities or moments that make a relationship feel like an absolute win?
Wow, these are toughies.
We get deep here sometimes.
Yeah. I think maybe moments over qualities, to be honest, because like my boyfriend is absolutely perfect. And as we've discussed, I couldn't gush about him enough. But before I met him, if you had asked me to like draw what I thought my husband would be, in terms of qualities, it wouldn't resemble him in the slightest. So I think that sometimes there's things that you need that aren't necessarily things that you are looking for, but that end up being like really important for your relationship. Like he's pretty quiet, and a little more introverted. And I would have put money that I was going to marry like a fellow Spitfire. But now that I'm with him, I'm like, that would go horribly. Like I would not like competing for the Spitfire, award in the relationship. So I think that it's probably for me moments over qualities, so that, because then you start to learn that it's like, oh, actually these qualities are things that I wouldn't have guessed, but are perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Couldn't
I think,
agree more.
One of the things that we always say is if you're looking for a partner when you're on a date, in the second or third date, start to ask those deep questions about like, what do you think of life? Where, what qualities do you see in your partner? And the thing that Hannah and I really aligned on was like, we want kids and like, we want a family. And my attraction for her, because she would always tell me, she's like, oh, your typical physical person of interest would not be me, right? Because I'm like from Staten Island and I'm Italian, and like she's seen past girlfriends.
He wants short brunette with big boobs.
You thought.
And
That's
I'm
what
tall,
she thought.
blonde with no boobs.
But
so
my
it's just
attraction was more of like, okay, there's a feeling here. She's obviously so beautiful, but I could see her if I ever get sick one day, or we have kids that get sick, like she's going to be the best mom, best partner. And that was so much more important than anything else. But like I said, you're beautiful, babe.
Thank you, darling. I think what you said is just a true testament. Something that I kind of preach a lot in particular is like, we come into dating and we come to the thought of relationships with this preconceived list and these notions of like what we think our person is going to be. 9 times out of 10, that is not who you end up with. If you told me 10 years ago that I was going to end up with like a sports obsessed CEO, like tech CEO, I'd be like, not a fucking chance. I'm going to end up with like an artist.
Yeah.
But I am happier now than I've ever been in my entire life, and again couldn't have those two creatives mixing over, like the Spitfire thing. I couldn't be with someone who's too creative as well, because otherwise I'd be like trying to outshine me.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work that way.
Yeah.
I get 2 more.
Okay.
This one is good.
Okay.
In the dugout. Babe, this was a great job.
Thanks, darling.
Okay, in the dugout. In baseball, the dugout is where the team regroups and strategizes. When it comes to relationships, where do you go, or what do you do to regroup after a rough patch with a partner? I think this is on brand.
I usually call my mom and my best friend and like get a little riled up, being like, I'm clearly right? And they're like, absolutely. But then, and after I've been like validated, because I'm the kind of person that needs like validation like that. And if I'm fighting with my boyfriend, I'm clearly not going to get it from him because he doesn't agree. So I usually go and get hyped up. And then I go back into the ring. But he is so good. This is another reason why he's perfect, is that I'm like a I'm going to fight to win. And he is like, we are on the same team. I am not like you and I are disagreeing, but we are on the same team and I don't want to fight you. And so I think ultimately I go back to him, but I need to leave to get some external validation first.
I love
damn
that.
straight. To vent as well.
We always talk
Yeah.
about that. If you're in an argument with your partner who you love and you win, that means they lose. Do you want your partner to lose?
No.
To his point, you're on the same team. But when you guys did break up, what was mom's advice? Like, was she like, go get him or take it
She
slow?
was like, kick him to the curb. Like, she was like, all done. But in fairness, like, we had been together. Our relationship was dragging out because we were long distance and there just wasn't like a reason to break up because neither one of us was like cheating or being rude. Like, but it was lifeless. So I think that my mom was like, you're hanging on to this for no reason. So just stop. And like, if you're meant to be together, that's going to work out, but it's clearly not meant to be like this. Like, you should not be an old married couple at the age of 20. Like, that's insane. And so she was definitely right. And so the break was perfect. But then when we were in that weird courtship phase, she was also like, this has got to just happen or not happen. Like, this, we can't keep doing this. Like, this is
The gray area
has
isn't
been
working.
years of like, will they, won't they? And it's too much. Like, you just have to do it and see it through or run away and leave it. So she had good advice for sure.
Mums always do.
Moms are always the best.
They're always right.
All right, last one. Batting average in love. If you had to rate your dating life with a batting average, what would it be? And how do you feel you could up your game to improve your success in your relationship?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I think I was pretty good. I mean, I didn't have any like massive situations when Brian and I were broken up. There was no like super high drama.
What about with you and Brian? How would you give yourself a batting average?
Yeah, what relationship score would you give yourself?
Oh, like a 10 out of 10.
Heck
I
yeah.
think
Oh,
that-
you're batting 1,000?
yeah, I am.
I love
Damn
that.
straight.
Brian has work to do, but but I should be put in a museum and study.
I can't wait for him to watch this.
No, I'm kidding. I do think that, like, obviously everyone has things to work on, but I think for the most part, we're just about as happy as we could possibly be at this point in our
Gracie,
lives.
that's so lovely. That's such a nice feeling to have.
Yeah. I got lucky.
I'm going to go up and then if we have enough time, then you can finish up with a couple
we
of
got
questions.
10
Okay.
minutes.
So another game, because we love games over here.
I love games.
I'm so glad. Okay, so it's called Strikeout or Home Run. So somewhat similar. Actually, not somewhat similar to the last game because that was the game I was supposed to go for it. Don't worry. This one's all about evaluating dating moves. So we're going to share some dating scenarios, and you have to decide if that move is a strikeout, aka a bad idea, or a home run, a great move.
Okay.
Sending flowers after a first date. Is this a sweet gesture or does it come off as moving too fast?
This happened in college and it was like the talk of our sorority. We all had opinions. And I was so conflicted. But I think in college it was a strikeout. Mm-hmm. I think because he sent them to our sorority house. So like everyone in the sorority knew about it, which felt a little like...
Showboaty?
Yeah, and a little like possessive almost, like something like that. But I think in life, probably a home run.
Also, how do they get your address?
Yeah,
Sorority house.
so
question.
that's
Oh,
yeah.
you mean in
Like
in
after a
life.
first date.
Well, maybe they picked you.
Yeah,
up.
you could do pick
True.
up or drop
That's true.
off.
That's true.
I did sneakers after our first date and it did not go well.
Not to our first date.
No, not to our first date. No, I was on a first date with this girl I really liked, and she was like, "I really love these sneakers, but they're too expensive." And I was like, "Oh." And I went home and I ordered them for her, and then she was just like, "This is creepy."
That's really sweet. It is kind of creepy, but
Yeah,
it
but
is
she
kind of
didn't like
sweet at
me,
the same
so if
I
you
mean,
don't like me-
that's where it comes into play, though. I think that's the defining thing with, like, if you like somebody and they sent you flowers, you'd be like, if the date didn't go well from your perspective and they sent you flowers, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Bringing up an ex during dinner. Strikeout, home run.
I think
First date.
neutral, kind of. Like, I think if it comes up, I mean, I wouldn't bring it up as a, like, let's talk about my ex. But I think if things come up, like, that never bothered me if someone, like, was out, like, if they just like casually mentioned that they had an ex like that, and like, you know, they're part of a story or something, that didn't bother me. But I wouldn't call it a home run either. Like that was never like oh, he's a winner.
It could also give you context too. If you're like, you know, what were your past relationships like? And it's like, well, you know, my last relationship, it didn't work out because of X, Y, and Z. And if it's done in a mature way, it's like, oh, this person's very insightful and very aware.
As Gracie said, I think it's just more so like, if it comes up in conversations like a natural part of your story, then it makes sense. But if like my ex was a bitch, like then you're like, all right, bro.
Shit talking the ex is a big strikeout.
Big strikeout.
That is a huge red flag.
Cannot agree more. Texting them right after the date to say, like immediately after the date, to say that you had a great time. Is it a nice follow-up or does it make you seem too eager?
I think that's a home run.
Me too.
My follow-up text was, hey, hope you got home okay. Because when you live in New York City, obviously you walk home.
Yeah.
So I just be like, hey, I'm making sure you got home okay. And if they didn't respond, I was okay. They didn't like me. If they responded, I was okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because it's like thoughtful, but it's not like...
Yeah. But if they don't respond, it's like, are they okay? You know?
Yeah.
Oh, stress.
You worried?
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. Introducing them to your friends on the second date. Is it bringing them into your circle early on? Does it show that you're serious or could it be overwhelming?
I think depends on the person. Someone did that to me when Brian and I were broken up. And I didn't mind because I'm like a very social person and my family is super important to me. It was also COVID. So it was one of those like, there wasn't much to do and everyone kind of had like their little bubble. So I think in the right context, it didn't bother me. But I think if I were a more introverted or shy person,
It'd be a little bit overwhelming.
yeah.
I see. I'd love that. Second date, group hang.
I invited you to New York for Christmas on our third date.
Yeah, but that was to meet your
no.
family, bro. And I was like, love you. Like kind of falling in love with you, but also at the same time, don't know if I'm ready for that step.
It was his family, to be fair, that I met on the second date. But his brother, like not the
Oh
family.
no, he was like proposing I meet his giant Italian family. And I was like,
They're usually fun.
and they are, don't get me wrong. But as also like,
She's getting we've been here one day. Yesterday we had the whole family, the grandkids over, and it was loud.
it's just very
Yeah.
loud.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's full of so much love. So it's hard to be frustrated at it. But there are some points where I'm like, I cannot hear out of my right
Yeah,
earlobe.
I feel you.
Posting a
Irish,
picture
so-
of your date. Oh, you're Irish?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get it. Posting a picture of your date on Instagram on date 3. Is it a bold move to show that you're proud of them, or is it way too soon to go public on social media?
Of just of the table or like of
them.
of them. Oh, I think that's a strikeout. Well, first of all, you need consent for that, I think.
Completely agree. Like a little superstitious. Like that's so fucking creepy.
That would be very odd.
Yeah, it's definitely a strikeout.
Last one. Following them on social media right after the date. Could it feel like you're moving too quickly into personal space? But if you clicked and the date went well, it could be a natural step to stay connected.
I think again, like you got to see like what's the social like. Like if their social media is public and they have like 15,000 followers, like
That's
then,
different.
Yeah, that's fine. But if they're private and they have 200 followers, like maybe not. Then they probably don't want anyone they've ever been on a first date with following them.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think you got to use your better judgment there.
I think it's tough though because then you have to unfollow somebody if it doesn't work out, and the unfollow is so awkward. So if you follow somebody at the first date, and then after a few days nothing happens, you have to then unfollow.
I feel like it's only awkward, again, to Gracie's point, if they have like a lower, smaller following, because it's quite noticeable that you've unfollowed them.
Yeah.
But bigger one, not so much.
I've kind of been on like an unfollow tear recently.
Me too.
I've been like, why am I following this person? We don't talk.
Same, and I got in trouble for it too. I mean, not in trouble, but I was going to this gym, and we became friends with one of the GMs who worked there. And, you know, when I saw them, I was like, oh, I'm gonna follow. Like they followed me, so I followed them back. Stopped going to the gym. A year goes by, and I was going through my Rolodex of who I follow, and I was like, I'm not gonna follow them anymore. There's no point. Ran into them, and they were like, you don't follow me on Instagram anymore. I was like, oh, fuck.
Kind of
Sorry.
ballsy to call it out too. Not gonna lie.
And I kind of felt bad, and then I refollowed them again. I was like, all right, I guess I'll follow you back again.
Oh, no.
You got shamed into it?
I felt bad. I was like, all right, if it means that much to you, I'll follow you. I don't care. I didn't unfollow you maliciously.
How do you like know if anyone unfollow? Like I feel
That
like
is the part
are
that
you going through and finding?
I didn't like.
That's weird. All right, Dan, you got like maybe 3 or 4 questions out
Okay,
of those
curveball
curveballs.
questions. This is the last one. Okay, we're going to throw you some unexpected dating-related questions or scenarios, the curveballs, and see what you would do. Okay. If your partner suggested getting matching tattoos on the third date, would you do it or run for the hills?
Run for the hills.
Run for the hills. Okay. You're on a date at a nice restaurant and accidentally refer to your date by your ex's name. Do you A, pretend you didn't say it, B, apologize immediately, or C, leave and hope they forget?
I guess apologize.
Okay.
I feel like running out of the restaurant is a bad option.
You're on a date and your partner insists on live streaming the entire thing for their followers. Do you stay or go?
Go.
I would hope so. Your date reveals that they're a reality TV star, but from a show you've never heard of. Do you play along and pretend you know, or do you admit you have no idea?
I'd admit I didn't know.
Yeah, same. I think that's cooler if you admit you have no idea.
Yeah.
You're on a romantic date and suddenly their phone rings with their custom ringtone of themselves singing. Do you A, compliment their talent, B, laugh it off, or C, end the date there?
I think I'd laugh it off, but I don't know if we would go out again. But I wouldn't have the balls to, in the moment, be like, that is so weird, and leave.
I'd just be like, that's a really interesting choice of ringtone.
These are
Yeah,
definitely
I'd be
good
that
like,
way.
ones.
oh, okay, and then move on.
Okay. What would you do if your date invited you to meet their parents on the first date because they always need the approval of their parents?
No, that's bad for
That's
all
not
kinds of
good.
reasons.
Preposterous.
2 more. You're having a great first date until your date pulls out a list of questions they've prepared like an interview. Do you A, answer them seriously, B, make it a joke, or C, run?
I'd answer them seriously.
I think I like that. I like that a lot.
I
You like the
would-
question, or you like,
I would do that.
yeah.
I think
Alright.
it could come off as funny.
Just pull it out, put your glasses on. All right, so question
Yeah.
1.
And
I would definitely unpack that with my friends later. I'd be like, you guys aren't going to believe this and we need to talk about it over some go-go juice or something. But I think in the moment I would just answer them.
All right, let's see. We might test that out somewhere.
All right.
Okay, last one. You're at dinner and your date orders for you without asking what you want. Is this a bold move or an instant red flag?
Instant red flag.
I agree.
Instantaneous.
I'm a foodie. You have no idea what I like.
How dare you presume that?
Yeah. Also, what are you ordering for me?
Hannah orders for me, but I like it.
Well, she knows
I just
you.
know what you like.
She does.
Yeah. A first date, I'd be like, what the
fuck?
I could be vegan. You don't know. I'm not, but I could be.
You could be. There's a
You have
possibility.
no idea. What if I have an allergy? You don't know.
There you go.
Gracie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be with us today. We cannot thank you enough for it. Can you just let our listeners know where to find you and where to find the show?
My Instagram is Gracie_Cashman. So is my TikTok. And then the show is on the Gotham Sports app.
Oh, cool.
I've got to give it a watch now.
I didn't know about that app, and now I have to get it.
Oh, another app you
yeah.
must have.
Nice. Well, Gracie, thank you so much. This
Thank
was awesome.
you.
Let's go Yankees. Big game tonight.
Go Yankees.
Do the outro?
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Watch one of our upcoming episodes. Please subscribe. It helps us a lot. Happy dating. We'll see you next time.
Bye.